UFC 306 is officially in the books, which means it is time for me to give my full card recap. We are going to be discussing every single fight that took place last night at Sphere. We're going to start with the early prelims, work our way up to the main event. If there's specific fights you want to hear me discuss, I will put the time codes down below, so make sure you check those out. But guys, the Sphere was absolutely spectacular. We got to give Dana White and the UFC their props and their credit. Look, Dana had been building this thing up, right? And we've seen Dana in the past, especially with UFC 300. He gets very excited about things. He has this vision and he tends to overpromise on certain things, which then leads to disappointment. And I got to be honest, man, the Sphere was absolutely spectacular. And I wasn't even there live. I was watching it through the TV and it was absolutely spectacular. The atmosphere, the storytelling, the vibe, it was crazy. I mean, hell, you had Breezy, you had Chris Brown in the crowd, dog. Like, when the hell's Chris Brown at a UFC fight? And I know he's a UFC fan, but you had the stars were out, man. The Sphere was spectacular. Job well done to the UFC. I'm being serious. Job well done to Dana White and the UFC, because what it took to pull that off, all the work that went into it, the money, everything. Shout out to Turkey Al Sheikh and Riyadh season, coming a part of it, man. The event was outstanding. And not only that, this was one of those weird cards where the main card, it had some moments. The prelims were better. So congratulations to us fight fans that the prelims, which are free on ESPN, ESPN Plus, was the best part of the night, right? Other than the fact on the main card where we did get to see, the cool storytelling and some of the crazy atmosphere-like things that the Sphere, brings to the table, which I thought they should have included a little on the prelims as a little teaser to get people to tune in and buy the pay-per-view, because at first I'm like, this is the Sphere, in the prelims. And then I was like, unless something, hits when we get later into the event in terms of the presentation, this was a bust. And then you get to the main card, totally different experience, amazing event. But let's hop right into this thing, man, because we had some crazy fights on the prelims. And the first fight of the night, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Arichalang. This fight went very similar to how I expected it to go. I thought Raul Rosas Jr. was going to do exactly what he did. Look, this kid is only 19 years old. When you are 19 years old in the UFC, he was 17 on Dana White's Contender Series. This man was 17 years of age in the UFC, walking around high schools being like, gee wee wee, I'm in the UFC, dog. Like, that is so crazy that this kid is that young, is doing what he's doing in this sport. He is one loss on his record, I believe. He's spectacular. He's spectacular. His grappling is good. He's still very green on the feet. We're seeing him constantly improve. His striking is looking a little bit better. He was having a hard time with the range, which I think a lot of that was he knew the power of Arichalang, right? A lot of people didn't really know who Arichalang was. They're like, oh, just some guy they're throwing in front of Raul. And it's like, Arichalang's got good power. He's got good power, and you saw that. He hurt Raul with a couple shots that I know didn't buzz him, but you saw him bleeding a little bit. And look, anytime you're in there with a veteran and you're the young prospect who is one of the biggest, I think the biggest favorite on the card, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, man. And Raul, I thought he did a spectacular job of just doing what needed to be done and get the win, because in terms of the grappling, he's got it. In terms of the physicality, this man is 19. And I've said this, when you're in high school, just a year or two, when you go from a freshman to your junior year, you look like a completely different dude. So when you're that young and you start to kind of fill out to your frame, we're now starting to see what Raul is really going to look like as he gets ready to make a run inside the UFC. But to call for a $50K bonus, man, after that, like, come on, man, that was kind of crazy. That was just kind of a young dude. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, I know he's trying to get some extra money for himself. That definitely was not going to get you a $50K bonus. But the point is, Raul, great performance. You got the job done. Could it have been better? Sure. But what matters most right now for this kid, experience, ring time, which he got. He was in there 15 minutes against a veteran that has good power. He got the job done. Way to go, Raul Rosas. Moving on. We had Edgar Chairez and Joshua Van. I went with Joshua Van to get this done, and it went very similar to how I expected it to go. But I got to give some credit, man, first to Edgar Chairez, because he surprised me in that first round. He looked absolutely spectacular. His head movement was on point. He had that good high guard. He was bobbing around. The jab was money. It was fast. It was lethal. He was throwing a good right hand behind it, almost kind of like Nate Diaz, where he throws that one and then the two, directly follows. He was able to buzz Josh Van several times, and Edgar Chairez looked spectacular. But we have to talk about Joshua Van. We have to talk about Joshua Van, man. Listen, to not only to take the fight on short notice, right, and come in there and do what he did to get the win. That's all very impressive. What impresses me the most about Joshua Van, this is a guy that, you know, if you've been following my channel, I've been very high on this young man. He has outstanding boxing. I think that he is one of the most technical flyweights in terms of the striking in the division. And he came off of a KO loss in his last outing against Charles Johnson, which Charles Johnson, we're seeing he's really good. So to lose to Charles Johnson, it's like, okay, you know, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But to get finished, right? He was neck and neck with Charles Johnson heading into the third, gets finished. Joshua Van got clipped a couple times and got hurt badly by Edgar Chairez. He hurt Edgar Chairez very bad. But the most impressive thing to me was the grit, the heart, and the mental toughness that we saw from Joshua Van, man. To get buzzed and to get rocked like that, it's just, to overcome that. You just got KO'd not that long ago. You took a fight on short notice and you come in here, you're getting wrong, you're getting battered, and you're getting stunned, but he never shied away. He kept moving forward, stuck to the game plan. I cannot speak highly enough about Joshua Van as I'm making this video, man. I could make a whole video about Joshua Van because I knew that he was going to get this done because of the not just so much the technical skills, but he wowed me with the mental toughness, man. I don't think people realize how hard that is to do. How we see fighters that get knocked out, they get finished, and they come back and they're never the same. This guy was out there slugging with a dangerous dude in Edgar Chairez, you know, on a card where he was going to have the fan base behind him, and he just showed up. He got the job done. Incredible performance by Joshua Van. I said in the first round, he was struggling with the range. He was letting Edgar fight from the outside. And I even tweeted, I was like, look, if Joshua Van can start landing that jab, he can start to, you know, let the right hand follow, turn it into a boxing match. He's going to have a lot of success. He did just that. Incredible performance by Joshua Van. And we even got to see some of the grappling from him on display. Spectacular performance, especially for being on short notice. Moving on. Yazmin, I can't pronounce her last name, so I'm not going to try. I don't want to butcher it. Versus Ketlin Souza. This was one of the big shockers of the night. I thought Yazmin was going to get this done. I thought that she was the better, more technical mixed martial artist, but this is why we love the fight game, man. You can be more technical. You can be more clean, because we even saw Yazmin, for those of you that train Muay Thai or are familiar with it, Thai 4 count, right? You start with a kick, you know, and then you throw 2 punches, end with a kick. That was Yazmin's approach. She was basically doing a Thai 4 count out there with her striking, and I was like, she's looking good. She's ending with the leg kicks. She's starting to kind of pick her apart. And Ketlin Souza, the power, you know, anyone that has power like that, man, if you're staying in the pocket a little too long and you get clipped with a hook, you're going down. And we saw that was not only a ferocious hook that hurt her, but to jump on the submission as quickly as she did, I mean, that was terrifying. Ketlin Souza absolutely stole, you know, she's one of the people that stole the show last night. And I think that that's going to fly a little under the radar because of some of the other crazy fights that we had seen on this card. That was a shocking performance. It was a spectacular performance. Great job by Ketlin Souza. Moving on. We have Manuel Torres versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I should have known better. I should have known better because when I talked about this fight and I gave my prediction, I went with Manuel Torres because I said, look, he's powerful. He's a finisher. Bahamondes is going to decisions. But I went against the Jake Gerber grain, man, which is, I always say, if someone's going to be looping on their shots and you have someone that is clean on the feet, throwing things straight down the middle, and it's just a straight kickboxing fight, they are going to win most of the time. And I went against the grain. I went against the grain because I believed in the Manuel Torres hype, which, again, I don't want to crap on Manuel Torres because I think that he is absolutely spectacular. I think he's dangerous. I think he's a very good fighter. But Ignacio Bahamondes is so good, man. He's so technical. He's so clean. He's sharp. You know, he just waited on Torres. He knew Torres had crazy power. Ignacio was just trying to draw out his reactions, bait him in, you know, to recklessly kind of charge in. Not everybody can fight like DDP, man, and be successful and win world championships. But even DDP, when he blitzes, he throws straight, where Torres was just looping. And anytime you come charging in looping like that against a good, clean, straight counter puncher, you're getting slept. You're getting slept, man, and we've seen it. Remember when Jose Aldo stepped in and was looping on a shot and McGregor threw a straight left hand down the middle? Good, clean, straight shots always beat the looping shot to the punch, at least most of the time. Bahamondes with that nasty step back right hand dropped them twice with the same shot, was eventually able to get him out of there. And I even thought after the first one we might have seen a stoppage. I thought that went on kind of long. It almost looked like Torres went out, bounced back, and came back to reality, somehow survived. Unbelievable performance by Ignacio Bahamondes. This dude is a problem. He defended, you could see he got, clinched up against the fence by Torres. He had an answer for that. He was able to get back to space, training with Bilal Muhammad. The dude looks spectacular, man. I'm excited to see where he goes in the division. He's definitely injecting some fun energy in the lightweight division, which always has, contenders and always has fun fighters. Big time performance by Bahamondes, and just great overall, man. I'm very impressed with Bahamondes. Moving on, Arena Aldana and Norma Dumont. I was ready to throw something through the TV last night. I was ready to throw something through the TV because, look, I love Arena Aldana as a fighter. I think she has outstanding boxing. She's got that good high guard, good head movement. She fights like this, moves forward. She just has a style that I love to watch. I like a good boxer inside of MMA, and I think she's better than Norma, man. I think she's better than Norma Dumont, and I might sound crazy and sound bitter this morning, making this video, but look, where was the jab? Where was the jab? Like, this is where, when people shit on Sean Strickland, they're like, all he does is utilize defense, a jab, and a teeps. But look how effective that is. And Arena Aldana could have won that fight last night if she fought like that, if she just used a good push kick to back Norma Dumont up, walk her down, utilize the jab. I don't understand how Arena Aldana has such spectacular boxing, but at the same time does not utilize the jab. She takes forever to get going, and this was the issue that I had with her coming into this fight. I was hopeful that, in the moment she would be able to get this done, but she didn't open up enough. And then, the forehead, the clash, and the big, nasty, brutal cut that opened up, which I thought was going to get the fight stopped. But nonetheless, man, Norma Dumont implemented a perfect game plan. She just kept circling. She kept just kind of throwing things out there. And I said, Norma Dumont is a decision machine. She doesn't really finish anybody. So to see Aldana not be aggressive and not try to just, explode in and let her combinations fly was absolutely just, it was driving me nuts, because I understand being cautious against Amanda Nunes. This is Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont's a good fighter, but come on. Come on, Aldana. And not only that, she wasn't cutting off the cage. She was just following her the whole time. And that's why Norma Dumont was just circling out with ease and looked like, she was like O'Malley out there with all the movement and everything. And it's because Aldana wasn't cutting her off. She wasn't heading her off. She was following her. And every time, Dumont would just go this way, she's just following that way. You can't win a fight like that. That was very frustrating to watch as someone who, I've said before, Arena Aldana is my favorite female fighter. I love a good boxer. I think she's very technically sound. The fact that her corner was not telling her in the corner in between rounds, where is your jab? Throw 100 jabs this round. Dumont's head is sitting straight on the center line. Straight shots. Stop throwing the looping hooks. They're not landing. Straighten out your shots. You'll touch her all day long with those. And to not tell her, utilize your footwork. You're following her. Cut her off. Bad cornering as well. But Norma Dumont did what she had to do. She fought from the outside. She beat up the legs of Arena, because we've seen Aldana has had some issues with that in the past. Dumont just stuck and moved and played that game the whole time. Good performance by Norma Dumont. Frustrating as a fan of Arena Aldana, because I think that she's better. She just doesn't open up enough and doesn't stick to the basics at times. Moving on to the main card. Ronaldo Rodriguez and Ode Osborne. Crazy ass fight, man. Crazy ass fight. Ode Osborne comes out guns blazing. He looked sharp. He looked fast on the feet. He looked way better on the feet than Rodriguez. Landed a nasty straight left hand that was kind of hurting him a little bit. And then Ronaldo stepped in through a combination, and I believe it was a check right hook by Osborne that dropped him. It looked like he was out, bounced, hit off the canvas, woke back up, somehow was able to survive. Osborne puts him in a triangle. He's looking for submissions, and they were deep, and somehow Rodriguez is able to survive and make it happen and gets a win. I mean, it was just an unbelievable way to start the pay-per-view. And look, Ronaldo Rodriguez, he's on a little bit of a streak right now. He's got a good record. He's a fun fighter. As I said before, I went with him because I'm like, this dude's scrappy, man. He's scrappy. He finds a way to get it done. But boy, did he show a lot of weaknesses in this matchup. I know that he's tough. I know it was fun and it was exciting. But when I look around the flyweight division, man, some of these dudes, man, they are savages. They are very technical, and they have good, straight, clean shots that they throw on the feet in terms of the striking. Ronaldo Rodriguez is going to have to fix a lot of these gaps, man, in terms of the striking, because his grappling is decent, but we have a lot of good grapplers at flyweight. And on the feet, man, is he just there to be hit. He's there to be hit. And I don't want to rip on him too much because he did have a crazy comeback and he was able to get this done. And I know Osborne, he was getting overlooked. He's a very good fighter. A lot of holes in the game of Ronaldo Rodriguez, man. A lot of holes. But the night belongs to him because it was an incredible performance. It was a comeback performance. He survived a lot of adversity. Well done by Ronaldo Rodriguez. That was very impressive. Moving on. Daniel Zellhuber and Esteban Ribovics. This was fight of the night. And not only was it fight of the night, it's fight of the year in my opinion. I know we had Poirier and Makhachev and maybe some other nominations. This was one of the best fights of all time that I have ever seen as an MMA fan. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of people, when they look at a fight of the year, they're like Gaethje and Chandler, where dudes are like ooga booga in it. They're dipping down and they're like, big meaty hooks, man. They're like, they're in there just fucking slugging it out. No technique. Everything's out the window. Dudes are just scrapping, pointing down at the canvas, and letting it fly. This was not that. It kind of had a little bit of that. This was a technical, violent battle. Like this was I don't really remember a fight that's been like this, where it's been just straight technique. I mean, you had Daniel Zellhuber, who's tall and rangy for the weight class. He's got good length. He has really good boxing, good straight, clean combinations. And, he trains at Extreme Couture. He's got Eric Nixick in his corner. You could see a little bit of the influence when it comes to those guys. That Strickland-like, utilizing the jab, not being afraid to throw the jab. Those teeps up the middle that, were working very, very well. And maintaining the range and staying very defensively responsible. And Zellhuber, I thought he was going to be able to get this done. He was fighting exactly how he needed to, but Esteban Ribovics is dangerous. And we all, I feel like as MMA fans, knew that coming into this fight. The way he finished Terrence McKinney, the way that he's been able to get to the inside on guys and let those nasty combinations fly. He's got dangerous power in his hands. He's durable as hell as well. This was one of the best fights I have ever seen because, again, it was wild, it was chaotic, but yet so technical between two guys that had similar styles but yet very different. That fight, I am so glad that I was able to witness that, watching it, live on TV, because this was unbelievable. The technique, Zellhuber got hurt, Ribovics got hurt. Zellhuber was in real trouble. I thought it was going to get stopped. He was dipping and bombing around and was able to survive, land some good shots, and come back and put on a hell of a fight. This was unbelievable. Both of these guys definitely deserved the fight of the night bonus. One of the best fights I've ever seen. Moving on. Brian Ortega, Diego Lopes. This fight went exactly how I had said it went. Look, or how I thought it was going to go. I thought Diego Lopes was going to beat Brian Ortega. I know a lot of people were high on the Diego Lopes hype train. They're like, look, he's gonna KO Ortega, man. He's gonna go out there and starch him. And I'm like, look, Brian Ortega, he's probably gonna get dropped. He's gonna get hurt, but it's T-City, man. He's hard to finish. It's only 3 rounds. And Diego Lopes did the very smart thing, which I definitely, I broke it down as well. He's going to rely on those leg kicks to try to hinder the movement of Brian Ortega. He did a great job battering the lead leg of Brian, because when you have a durable guy like that, what's a good way to, to attack him? The body and beat up the legs. Diego Lopes had a game plan for that. Diego is an absolute problem, man. He's an absolute problem. I think he should be next in line for the title. I know we have Volkanovski waiting in the wing. This man, not only is he a savage, not only is he dangerous, but he's getting better and better. I mean, this guy, from the path that he had with the Contender Series, the losses, which, by the way, it turns out, his opposition was pretty damn good, I'd say, right? He's a damn good fighter. He's putting it together, and we see this. We see guys suffer a few losses here and there, and then everything starts firing on all cylinders. Everything starts to add up. Everything starts to click. We're seeing that with Diego Lopes. He's got good boxing. He's got good, he looked a lot more clean in terms of the striking. Sometimes he gets a little wild. He was baiting out the attacks of Ortega, waiting to counter. He threw a nasty right hand and then a left hook right behind it, which was able to drop Ortega. Spectacular performance by Diego Lopes. And I know people are like, well, why didn't he finish Ortega? Because he didn't want to just gas out, right? Trying to look for a finish, knowing how tough Ortega is. And I thought that was a very valuable fight for him. The number 3 ranked guy in Ortega. You're in there for 15 minutes with him in the sphere, huge atmosphere. You go in there, you basically dominate the fight. You get some good ring time in there. You showcase that you can grapple with Ortega, who's one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in all of MMA. Great performance by Diego Lopes. And I thought Brian Ortega, after having a bad first round, he came back and looked pretty good. I thought his striking looked pretty good. I thought his boxing looked clean. It looked technical. It was just, there was a huge power advantage on the side of Diego Lopes. I know Diego's actually not that much younger than Brian, but you could just see he was just a lot more powerful. And every time Brian would step in and try to exchange, the power difference of Lopes, it was a problem. Diego's a nightmare inside the featherweight division. This dude's a problem. Moving on. Co-main event of the evening. This is where the event kind of went south. Everything up to this point was fun. It was entertaining. The crowd's going wild. And then we hit the co-main event. I got to be honest, guys. I was completely shocked at what went down in the co-main event. Not because Grasso lost, which I thought Grasso was going to be able to get this done. I knew that Valentina Shevchenko was very capable of winning this fight. I feel like we all felt that this was a very even matchup, and it's just going to depend on who shows up that night. I need a drink there. I'm getting parched. But Valentina Shevchenko, she flat out showed up with a perfect game plan, and Alexa Grasso, she was stuck in the mud the whole fight. She just didn't show up. Alexa Grasso just didn't show up. She looked like after the first round when she was coming back to the stool, like she just looked flat. She looked like she couldn't get it going. Her energy was just not there. And sometimes, I've said this before, with fighting, it's not basketball, it's not football, it's not baseball, where it's like, oh, we'll get it tomorrow, we'll get it back next week. No, you got to wait till the next fight, and there's so much preparation that goes into these fights, and you just saw Alexa Grasso. She looked flat, she looked unenthused to me, and she got absolutely dominated by Valentina Shevchenko. And not only was this a boring fight, right? I mean, we can all agree on that. It was a boring fight, but Valentina, she had a clear game plan coming into this. It was to strike on the feet, clip Alexa Grasso with some good shots, get her to try to let her hands go with the boxing, dip right underneath and take her down. And Alexa Grasso's takedown defense, absolutely atrocious. I could not believe how bad her takedown defense was. Every time Valentina shot, she was able to take her down, and not only take her down, hold her down the rest of the round. Grasso had no urgency to get back to her feet, and I know she's throwing up submissions and kind of hoping on a prayer there, to sink in a submission and lock something in, but I mean, come on, man. You can't have a game plan banking on sitting off of your back looking for submissions the entire time, because look, Valentina is known for her striking. That is what got her to the dance, and blew her up inside of the sport. But now it's the fact that she's incredibly well-rounded. Her grappling has almost basically caught up with her striking to where she is so well-rounded. She's good everywhere. And I was just appalled at the lack of urgency and the lack of enthusiasm from Grasso in this fight. And I think Valentina Shevchenko just broke her, if you want me to be honest with you. I thought that she sucked the life out of her. I thought that she sucked the air out of her. And that was a completely dominant performance by Valentina Shevchenko. I know it was boring. We can all agree on that. But it was absolutely impressive the way Valentina Shevchenko just absolutely controlled her. I mean, you would have thought that if you did not know who any of them were coming into this fight, if you didn't know that they had fought twice already, you would have been like, this is the champion in Valentina Shevchenko, and this is someone who's, a budding contender, but was in over their head taking this fight. That's the way it looked. And I'm not trying to rip on Grasso too much, but I'm very frustrated and disappointed in what we saw from her last night. The lack of urgency, the lack of putting combinations together and trying to win the fight, and just camping off of her back the whole time was a recipe for a loss. And she got what she earned, man. She got what she kind of deserved. You want to sit on your back the whole time? That's what's going to happen. Couldn't stuff a takedown until the fifth round. Just didn't go well for Grasso. But again, Valentina Shevchenko, one of the greatest fighters, period, of all time, regardless of gender. And not only that, she's absolutely spectacular. She's fun. She's great. There's no way you could dislike Valentina Shevchenko. I expected more from Alexa Grasso. But again, if anyone could win the title and, carry on the division here, I'm happy it was Valentina Shevchenko. Again, boring, but great performance. Moving on. The main event of the evening, Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. This is not how I envisioned the fight going. And I honestly thought Sean O'Malley, look guys, Merab Dvalishvili, we know what he's going to do. It's just like Khabib, where you know the game plan. You know Merab's going to come in. You know he's going to shoot a million takedowns. You know he's not going to get tired. You know that he's just going to be an animal in there. And he's just going to keep coming forward, and he's never going to get tired. But I thought that the footwork, the timing, the distance, the speed, the power of Sean O'Malley, I thought it was going to be too much. I thought that he was going to find those angles. He was going to be able to find those shots that we've seen Henry Cejudo, we've seen Marlon Moraes land on Merab, and O'Malley couldn't find him. He couldn't find him. I don't know if it was just the fact that he looked flat to me, but I don't want to take anything away from Merab because Merab implemented a perfect game plan. That not only did Merab do what Merab normally does, but the adjustment that I didn't expect, and I feel like a lot of us didn't expect, was how Merab, he just kept bouncing around. He was actually utilizing spectacular footwork, which is something that I feel like we never saw from Merab. He was just kind of plodding and moving forward with his hands up and just charging forward to where he intelligently pressured O'Malley. He constantly was level changing, giving O'Malley the thought, but then he was bouncing around like this on the outside, and O'Malley was just trying to track him down, and he never was a stationary target. He was never a sitting duck that allowed O'Malley to just snipe at him. It was a brilliant game plan by Merab and his team. It was an outstanding performance by Merab Dvalishvili. And look, I thought O'Malley was going to be able to finish him. But what I had said time and time again is I am glad that with this title fight, it was just like Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad, to be honest with you. It kind of looked like that fight, although Belal was landing a lot of good shots on the feet where Merab wasn't landing many good shots on the feet. But it was the fact that we got the rightful guy getting a title shot. And that is why I liked when Belal got the title shot, because he got screwed over for a while. He finally got the title shot. To the same scenario for Merab. Got screwed over for a while, finally gets the title opportunity. It was the rightful guy fighting for the belt. And Merab showed up. O'Malley did not. And not only did he show up, Merab implemented a actually very intelligent game plan. So we all kind of thought Merab's just like this, oafy idiot, and he goes in there and implements a perfect game plan to perfection because, to be honest, he didn't, we saw what he did to Jan. He shot like 50 takedowns or whatever. In this one, he wasn't just spamming takedowns because he knew if I get too reckless, I'm going to get sniped. So what did he do? He's like, I got to be a little more methodical here. I got to pick and choose my takedowns. And when I do pick my takedowns, I can't just keep spamming them and give O'Malley those opportunities. It was a great game plan by Merab Dvalishvili, very well executed. I'm happy for the guy. Look, I picked O'Malley to win, but again, I said no ill will towards Merab. He's talented. He's a special fighter. We've never seen anything like him. He's an alien. The cardio, the pace, the pressure, just all of it. Great performance by Merab Dvalishvili. And again, we're in an era now where it seems like these guys that are winning belts, there are a lot of, people that, necessarily aren't stars that the UFC is pushing. The UFC is going to have to start getting behind these guys as well because, look, Sean O'Malley, there was no question he's someone the UFC is pushing, and this is a big hit to Sean O'Malley losing this fight. But nonetheless, great performance by Merab Dvalishvili, and overall, the Sphere was absolutely spectacular despite what all the naysayers said. I had sat over here and said, stop complaining. I think that this is going to be a fun event. It sure was. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel, and do me a favor, turn on the notifications bell so you do not miss an upload. I appreciate you all, and I will see you next time.